Well, Mike, thanks for joining me today. Uh, it's kind of a crazy story how we got connected here. One of my friends is one of your friends, and I posted a YouTube short on one of my social media pages, and all of a sudden there's a message sent to both of us saying we need to hook up. So, hey, we're making it happen.
I love it. Yeah, I'll do it. He's a great guy, so I'm glad it brought us together, and I'm sure we'll be in for some laughs and some good times, and maybe some will be at his expense.
There you go, right? So, the props to Gary. Gary, if you're listening out there, which you probably won't be, but if you're out there listening, thanks, Gary, for hooking us up. But Mike, before we get going here, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of maybe where you grew up, where you live, and what you do for a living?
Yeah. So let's see where I grew up. Right here in Twin Cities area. Um, I've been hunting with my dad since I was 12 years old. I'm now the ripe old age of 49. As I start to say it now, I've completed level 49, so I'm getting up to level 50. Um, and I've enjoyed the outdoors that whole time. To the point now, I'm a construction management project manager. I guess is my full time big boy job, but I also have recently got into the outfitting and outdoor TV end of the world. So I kind of do that on the side hustle. I'm married. I've got two kids, 10 and 12-year-old girls that they are going to start doing some of their first hunts coming up here. So we're looking forward to that. I think um, it's awesome to be in that portion of my hunting career because I've got a big giant room that I'm kind of looking at right now that's full of all of my past stuff. So yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at. A little bit of who I am. I just love the outdoors and look to share all the stories I can.
How motivated are you to do what you do, whether it's your everyday job, your guiding? How motivated are you by your kids to do what you do day in and day out?
I would say they push just about the whole deal. I mean, when I say I'm a construction manager, I'm actually a construction manager for a playground company. So I install playgrounds for kids.
There you
So
go.
I get a total big kick out of making kids happy. And now that they're older, I look forward to bringing them into the field hunting with me, be it a turkey hunting, bear hunting, whitetail deer hunting. I look forward to those hunts more than I do probably my own hunts. And I mean, I was on some pretty great hunts this last year, Iowa and Kentucky. And the whole time I thought, man, I couldn't even imagine if my kids were with me right now, what they'd be thinking as I'm watching 400 deer, in a week's time. So it motivates me all the way across it. They love the stories. We enjoy it as a family to eat it. And so I'm constantly pushing to try to get them outdoors.
Yeah, anytime I can get a little nudge in there in some way, shape, or form with my girls, like, yes, daddy shoots bucks. Like we go out hunting, we eat buck. Like that's what we're going to be eating tonight. And just to kind of ingrain that into their minds, like, this is what we do. There's not going to be anyone that's going to turn you away from it. This is what we do. This is our lifestyle.
Yeah, they're all for it. I mean, we've got freezers full of it, and they prefer. I think venison for the longest time. They didn't know what regular hamburgers taste like because they only had venison. I mean, my youngest daughter's meal growing up favorite was buttered noodles and ground venison, and she ate that like it was the best thing on earth until she had real beef, and then she thought it tasted funny. So
Do you guys
that
make
was
your own venison?
we do. I mean, I shouldn't say we do. We used to. Now it's just such a heinous lifestyle, and we're always so busy with everything. I do bring a lot of my stuff in, but I've got some pretty selective guys that I only let touch my stuff.
Yeah.
They're private processors, if you will. So I know I'm getting my stuff back, but we used to do the whole thing. We made it a family affair and all of it, and now it is just so much time.
Yeah.
There's a process to it.
Big time. Yeah, there's a we always did when we were younger. I'm actually sitting next to a picture over on the wall over there of my brother and I at my grandparents' place, sitting there mixing the pork and the venison
Oh
together on
yeah.
the kitchen table. And I did it for the longest time, and then I went off to college, and then I moved for my first teaching job, and I kind of got out of it. And now that I'm back around home again, I'm back with the family, so we continue the tradition of doing it. Uncle takes a lot of pride in having everything ready to go, the old school hand crank grinder and
Oh yeah.
stuffer and all that stuff. So it's a lot of fun, and we usually try to do it on a Saturday so we have Sunday to recover.
Yeah, that's the hard part. We tried doing a little bit here, but it started off as a family event and it finished off being a dad event. And I was like, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. So
Yeah,
we
no, I hear you. No, a lot of
yeah.
these things we're talking about, a lot of our memories. What is one of your first memories in the field of hunting?
Oh, it's very easy for me to answer this. And I was 12 years old. My dad took me out of school. We went to a public land spot. This was back in the day, if you can imagine, where they didn't give doe tags to everybody, and so we had no doe tags. We had a buck only tag. Um, we went out in the woods. My dad was in a homemade portable tree stand with a seat belt out of an old car, and he was about 12 feet in the air, and I was at the base of the tree, and I learned real quick that deer can walk in the woods very quietly, as a deer snuck up all the way behind me in the back of a tree. And when she snorted at me and wheezed, that adrenaline right there was probably what hooked me for a lifetime. My dad watched the whole thing from 12 feet above me as I was playing with a little pocket knife I had, digging it into the ground. And
Yeah.
he laughed about it the whole time. I was very confident that I would never have a deer be able to sneak up on me. And I learned that lesson right away, first morning ever hunting. And when we walked back to the truck talking about it, we jumped the buck we were after. So that was
Oh
nice.
man.
And that's just how that went down. And I'll remember that for the rest of my life. There's no doubt about it. It's what hooked me, the adrenaline, the whole 9 yards of seeing that doe for the first time at 12 feet, snorting at me because I didn't realize what was this little small human doing at the base of a tree, whittling away in the dirt with a old pocket knife.
That's cool. You get that adrenaline rush, and like you said, you're hooked right away. I know we like to have some fun with some of our cousins out in the woods when we're out hunting, and it just, I don't know, creates those fun memories, and I don't know, gets them hooked, and they go back and I don't know, for example, this one time after it was the last day of the season, so we weren't too worried about boogering any deer of firearm season, I should say, and my uncle was in the stand with them, and my uncle, we had this all planned out. My uncle was the only one that had a firearm with him, and he said, "You guys stay in the stand. I'm gonna walk back and get the truck." And there was like three of my cousins. They're all, they weren't of hunting age yet, and I kind of snuck, 100 yards away from him in the woods, and I had a remote control coyote call, and I just hammered on that thing, and those kids were just screaming it in that box stand, and they're freaking out, and that's one good memory that they'll never forget. Yeah, so that's what it's about. It's about making those memories, and the line of work that you're in with guiding, you get to see so many people create those memories on maybe buck of lifetime or something like that, or maybe their first kill.
Yeah, you're
So
so
it's
right. You're so
what's
right. I
that?
mean, I didn't mean to interrupt there, but you are so right. I mean, it's kind of what drives me to do the whole guiding aspect of it now. Is I've been super blessed in my life to shoot a lot of great deer, and now helping people shoot their personal best, and we do it very well down there. We guide in Buffalo County, Wisconsin. They're homegrown outfitters, if anybody knows about it. But we have, to me, that's the new challenge. It's like shooting a personal best 3-4 times a week for every week for 3 weeks out of the year, and that's the fun I get for it. Is create the memories for the other guys and watch them, the emotions roll. And I've seen it everywhere from a 71-year-old man shooting a 115-inch 10-pointer, and let's just say he celebrated into the wee hours of the morning, and it was
As he
awesome to
should.
see, right? And that was his biggest deer of his lifetime at 71 years old. And I mean, yeah, it was probably a deer that a lot of other guys wouldn't shoot, but for him, it was exactly what he wanted. And all the way down to guys that we've tracked up and walked up on Boone and Crockett caliber deer, and it's the same emotions. So to me, that's the fun part about it. Is it's always about the memories, and it's starting to come full circle because I'm about ready to be that dad 12 feet above my daughters here pretty quick.
It's one of those things where, um, when it comes to outfitters, I guarantee you that there's not too many people that say after they're done with their experience with you guys, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. You know what I mean?
Right?
Like,
Yeah.
and that's what I kind of want to dive into here, in a couple questions. But first of all, like, how did you become a guide?
Signed up and willing to give away some of your own fall hunting times. No, it was kind of a weird deal. I'd met a gentleman at a different outfitter in Illinois. Oh man, it's got to be close to 8 years ago now, maybe 9 years ago, and we stayed in contact and we talked back and forth about just different things we were seeing. And then one day he came to me and he's like, "Hey, would you want to come down and film me? I'm kind of doing this kind of self-filming thing and I'm in Wisconsin." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I come down there and I did some filming for him. But at the meantime, he kind of told me about he had hooked up with this other NFL football player and they were thinking about doing some different stuff. And I thought, oh, cool. Well, then I went hunting with them. And in that camp is when they kind of thought, man, this is the guy we want. And so they approached me with it. And I thought, I don't know that I want to be an outfitter. But when they kind of told me how their game plan was or what they were doing there, it changed my mind a little bit because it wasn't like a lot of other outfitters. It's super low pressure. It's super um, habitat enticing. If you've ever been to the websites or anything like that, um, we have 22 farms and we bring in 48 hunters a year. And so for me, I was like, okay, this is like a style of hunting that I'm already doing. Low pressure. I can help out with this. And we have some great clients that come in. But yeah, so to make the long story short, basically just by being in a deer camp, making good friends and then just taking a chance on an opportunity to go on a hunt that you have no idea how it was going to pan out. I didn't even shoot a deer on that hunt. It was the funniest thing. We tried and tried and tried, but I'd become so picky at that point that they were like, "You're not going to kill that deer?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm going to wait for a bigger one." And
Mhm.
it just kind of turned into that. And so it's turned into a really cool thing. And then it's morphed into a TV show too. So
So when a person gets there, because like you mentioned, I don't know if I want to work for an outfitter, and like
yeah,
what's your thought process then? Because okay, so what I'm getting at
there's so
is
many outfitters that just run numbers.
sure,
I'll sell as many hunts as people are willing to write a check for.
okay,
And to me, I don't know. That's just the money greed part getting into it. And I think that that's ruining a lot of hunting and a lot of outdoors. And so it was hard for me to sign up for something like that. But when I realized that's really wasn't what it was about, um, I could get behind it. But yeah, that was the main reason why I was like, yeah, outfitting. I've been to a couple of them, never had I've had some good experiences and I've had some bad experiences. And the good experiences came from the knowledge to know the right questions to ask and to push for some different things, which is tough to do sometimes. Some outfitters won't break on it and they won't help out on it.
sure. What does it look like when you get to camp? Because I see this stuff on YouTube. I'm watching it on YouTube. I'm following it on social media. I'm like, tell me, Mike, what is it like when you show up to camp there? What can a person expect when they show up to camp at Homegrown?
First, you're going to roll into a lodge that's comes through this windy driveway that you're like, man, this is everything that I think it's going to be. So if you first you get that, then you come down into the valley and you see this amazing lodge, and then from there it really just turns 5 star, almost like resort hotel option at that point. We've got a separate little changing room area that's fully decked out with ozonic lockers and all of that stuff for guys if they choose to put their stuff in that or not. But we've got a full changing area. Then it leads right into like your typical lodge. It's got a big bar and it's got a big giant table for dinners and pool table and all these deer heads and mounts. And then, it's the sleeping quarters. But from that point on, I mean, you jump in a truck with a guide every morning. They bring you out. All of our trails are set up through ozonics. or not, excuse me, onyx, not ozonics, onyx, that we can give right to your phones, and you could walk a trail right to the bottom of a tree. All the properties have amazing food plots and designs, and we've gone in and tore out entire tops of ridges to put in secluded food plots that we sneak guys into, and the designs behind them is another part that has really, really intrigued me, and to be part of it, it's something that I don't see a lot of other outfitters doing. They just carve out a piece of the field, put down some clover, and you're hunting over a food plot. Where I mean, we're mowing stuff down in the middle of July and planting brassicas in the middle of corn and making funnel ways and watering holes, and everything is strategically planned. I mean, we've got we just tree plantings and switchgrass, but everything is done with a purpose around getting deer to come to certain areas so that they're huntable. And it shows in our, I mean, I think we took last year off of outfitting, which that's a whole story by itself to grow our age class. But the year before that, we had a 81% success rate between our clients for shooting a deer. And that's, I want to say that most probably are probably between 35% probably success is what a normal outfitter will run for a whitetail. And we're more than double that for sure. And that's the part that's fun about it. But otherwise, it's full meals, and we have a 5-star chef that's in camp that makes some of the greatest meals for our guys.
That's big. That's big
And
for
we've
me.
had 100% re-sign up. And like I tell the guides, it's easy to resell a hunt to a guy that was successful. But if a guy who wasn't successful will write you a check the day he leaves for the next following year, that's when you know you have success. And we have that.
No doubt. And it just looks like a great environment and a great culture that everybody has built there. It seems like a great team. I don't know if you want to give a few shout outs to a few of the people that are out there helping you guys, design your food plots and all
Oh
that good
yeah,
stuff. I think it's worth mentioning because I think they do a great job.
yeah, it starts off with Jeff Altoff. He designs all the farms and puts the plans together. And then from there you've got Garrett Keys and Jeff Nelson, who are doing most of our food plots. I mean, they plan them, they execute the design. And then you've got a guy by the name of John Schroeder, who is a full-time employee for Homegrown, and he is constantly doing cameras and weed whipping of water holes and putting up tree stands and cutting shooting lanes. And I mean, that guy is nonstop, 60 hours a week, but he lives and dies deer hunting like nobody I've ever known. And his passion for it is next to none. And it shows. He shot his personal best last year on an own lease that he picked up himself and put together and put a strategy behind it and put all the pieces together. And he shot a great deer, and the photos were amazing on it. And I mean, and Kira and Trey Waynes, who are also co-owners, the passion they put into it to build something that they're proud of and people will keep coming back to, just shows all the way through. Chef Chris, who owner of Taberna Taco down in Lake Calhoun area, he's our chef. Shout out to his restaurant. I go there as much as I can when I'm down towards that way in inner Minneapolis. So, but yeah, he puts the food together, which is just one more piece that is top notch.
Yeah, it sounds like a blast. There are stereotypes out there that outfitters are high fence.
Yep.
And what can you say about Homegrown?
If you can find a high fence on Homegrown that we've got a deer trapped somehow for a hunter, I'll buy you any hunt in this country. How about that?
Yeah, that's just some of the maybe the old school thinking that everyone who goes to an outfitter, it's high fenced. Immediately the thought comes in their head that it's high
Absolutely.
fence.
Absolutely. And you know what? There's a place for high fence stuff. It's not for me personally, but I always look at it as, every person that goes to Africa is hunting high fence, but that seems to be okay just because you got on an airplane and flew over an ocean. So if it's legal to do, I'm fine with it. Is it my favorite thing? Nope. Is it some other guys? It must be because they're out there and people do them and people pay for them and it gets them what they need, I guess. I don't know. It could be an adrenaline thing. I'm not sure. I've never done it, so I can't also say that what it would be like. It doesn't seem like it's something for me. But in the outfitter world, it does always seem high fence or I can't. There's so many questions I've been asked every time I post something. Like, oh yeah, did you take the leash off of it, or how did you get it to train to walk by that guy? And I'm like, if it was that easy, don't you think that we just have like 1-day hunts we would offer and we wouldn't have to do 5-day hunts? Like, I don't understand that portion of it. So
Yeah, every time.
sometimes just jealousy looks ugly sometimes. So
Yeah, yeah,
just
every
brush that
time
off the shoulders and move on.
you see a hunt on TV, I know people right away. Yeah, all that stuff on TV, that's all high fence stuff. I said, well, maybe
Yeah,
back in the day, but I said not anymore. Trust me, it's not.
you can't with social media and just everything that happens. You'd never be able to get away with it. I mean,
Yeah,
there's just already so many people that have tried to get away with other things, and it won't happen today. It will not happen in today's age. So I would I would tell anybody to always go try an outfitter. I've got nothing against them. There's good ones out there. There's bad ones out there. I would say just do your research and ask the questions. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. It's your money, and ask the questions that you want answered and what you're looking to buy. So if you're looking for something in particular, let it be known. Um, I've been searching the last 3 years to find the right guy to take me on a mountain lion hunt. So it's it's one of the things where I was on a very nice one, and it since has not an option anymore.
I know. You're talking about the money side of things. One of my former coworkers brought this up to me is when I was looking for a property to purchase, and he goes, "Why would you spend, you know, X amount of thousands of dollars, $100,000 plus whatever? Why don't you just go spend 5,000 a year and go to an outfitter where you have a pretty darn good chance of shooting a good deer and let them do the work for you?" So I mean, there is that side of thinking too, where it's like, you know what? If you don't have the funds to go purchase a good property and you really want to shoot a good deer, this would be the route to go.
There's no doubt about it. I've thought about the same thing. Do I go buy a piece of hunting land for myself, build it up for my family, my girls, or do I take $250,000, $250,000, and go buy a bunch of outfitted hunts that will give a better memory? I think sometimes because it's not the let's go sit in a stand for 4 days and see 2 deer in the middle of the cold in northern Minnesota or wherever else, and instead of staying in an amazing lodge where there's that portion of it, where if it does rain a day, you don't feel bad that you have to sit inside this log cabin and kind of chill out and watch the scenery around you and spend some time with your daughters and maybe learn something about them while you're out there instead of not being able to hunt. So
Yeah.
it's an experience at this moment for me. I try to tell a lot of people that like deer hunting is deer hunting. It's really fun, but what's the experience and the story you'll get out of it? To me is what I'm after now. And that's why another aspect of I love about the outfitting side of it is every year it's different. I get in front of 40 guys every fall, and it's a 5-week deer camp. And the stories that I've got, I mean, I could make this podcast a day and a half long, if I told them all.
I don't know how you do it that long at deer camp because I can't make it through 1 week in a deer camp myself.
Well, and the nice part is we hunt a week, we take a week off, we hunt a week, we take a week off, we hunt a week, and then we're done.
Sure.
So there's a reset in there, which is nice, and then it's a fresh set of faces that show up. So you can tell the same joke 3 times and you can get the same laughters out of it. So that's the nice part about it is your material can stay fresh.
So do you go out with the hunters in their stand, or do you just drop them off? Or I mean, are you doing the scouting beforehand, or how's that work?
Yeah, I mean we started putting out cameras mid-June, so we're starting to get some good velvet pictures in. And if you follow us on social media, there's some good posting of some really good deer that are coming up here. Um, I will say stay tuned because you're going to see some really really big deer coming up here pretty soon.
Nice.
But we have Jeff's brother Joey Altoff. He's our camera guy. So we have about 250 cameras in the field right now, and so it can be anywhere from 1,200 to 3,000 pictures a day that you may have to go through. And I don't know how he does it. To me, that's the hardest job about everything that we've got because he reviews them, catalogs them, keeps them in place, and I mean, he just does an amazing job with it. But so we do all the scouting that way. We've got a few guys that will sneak into some of the stands here probably in about the next month, and they'll do some videoing of these deer, and we'll start trying to get a better plan for them. And then after that, the farms are set up. We'll have all of our stands will be verified. Everything's a double set, lifelines, bow hangers, pull-up strings, hooks, and we've got some stands that in 4 years we've still never sat in. I bet you I've got 40 stands that we've never even put a seat in. One of the favorite stories is we hunted a farm a grand total of 2 morning sits and 3 night sits for the entire year and shot 3 deer off of it.
Wow.
And so
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, so the work that goes into it by the team, it makes it really easy, to be honest with you. Sometimes you got to convince the hunters because they're like, you want me to do what? And we're like, yeah, no, seriously, it's going to work. I promise you, right? Like, you got to sneak into this spot and you see the highs and lows. I had a hunter come in one time that I not saved it, but we had to save the spot till the wind was right. We finally got the wind right. He goes down in there, and because he didn't have the proper clothes, and he decided to change his draw weight on his bow 3 weeks before he showed up because he was going to pull more weight because that was going to help him be successful, I didn't understand that. We only know this because the neighbor ended up shooting that deer, but it was a 198 inch deer, and it was at 12 yards in front of him, and he couldn't get his bow pulled back.
Oh man.
So when you get a grown man to jump in your truck and shed a tear because that just happened, that's a story. That's real feelings right there. Yeah, he was but yeah, but those are the things that happen, right? And we knew that was a good spot, and we knew that deer was there, but we just needed the right wind to go in and do it. A lot of guys would have just plowed right in there, and we didn't, and it turned out to be awesome.
I hope my younger brother's listening to this about waiting to go in at the right time.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things.
It is.
I've got
especially when the trail cameras are sending you pictures and there's a buck, but it's like, okay, it's at night yet. It's still dark. We got to get him closer to daylight, and then maybe let's try jumping it. But the other thing too is to go along with that to kind of back my brother on this, like, hunting is about the experience too, and just being out there, and it's not always about killing the big buck. Would it have been awesome to shoot that big one? Heck yeah, but it's about enjoying yourself too, and enjoying the outdoors, enjoying the woods, enjoying your properties. Where even like my property here that I live on, I got 43 acres, and the only portion of the property that I really go on is my 5-acre field that I'm putting food plots in. Other than
Yeah.
that, like I'll go in there, I'll do a little bit of shed hunting, I'll do some TSI, I'll make sure the stands are good, and then I don't go in there. My wife's like, "What do we buy this property for if you never go on it?" It's like, it's all a strategy. Just give me some
Yeah.
time
Right.
here.
Right. Why do we need a big pantry in the kitchen, honey, if we're not going to go in there? We're just going to store stuff there, right? That's where we're storing the food too. On the other 35 acres is where we store the food, and then we pull it out when we need it. So
That's right. That's right.
yeah.
There's obviously got to be some big challenges that you face as being a guide. Whether it's you've probably ran into some clients that might have been difficult to work with. There might be added pressure on you if you're working with somebody, that might have some fame maybe or something. Is that part of the game?
Yeah, I mean, we have had some TV celebrities and such like that that have come into the lodge, and in all honesty, I've treated them exactly like I've treated the blue collar guy that saved up to come on a hunt with us. And because I only think it's fair, because I've been the blue collar guy in that outfitter. So we're lucky enough that we've got good enough farms that everybody's on a good farm. I would say that one of the bigger challenges that comes about sometimes is you have some guys that in their eyes a 2.5-year-old 130-inch 10-pointer is a trophy to them, and they will shoot. That's a deer we're trying to keep and live and grow to be bigger. And so some of the challenges is we have to be careful on which farms we put certain guys on. I mean, I've got some guys that, I mean, for instance, we had him hunting on a farm, and he had a 160-inch 10-pointer that we wanted him to kill. It was bedded down with a hot doe, and he was sitting over a watering hole. It was just a matter of time, and it was bedded down 80 yards from him on the other side of the hill from him. And all of a sudden he looked over, and here came in a great 140-inch deer and came to the watering hole, and he shot that buck at the watering hole while he had his target buck 80 yards away bedded down with a doe. It was still bedded down, by the way, when we drove up to get him, and we jumped them out, and they ran over the hill, and I watched this target buck go across, and I just thought to myself, his hunt, right? He gets
Yep.
to do what he wants with it, and his hunt, but like, we can't put that guy on that farm that's got the 2.5-year-old double drop tine split brow
Mhm.
triple beam buck, right? Like, you want that buck to grow up to be something super mega caliber. So Dan Bothwell, if you ever hear this podcast, sorry, buddy, I can't put you on that farm. But this is the same guy that he killed an absolute monster that we went live with on Facebook last year. So he made a great shot. I mean, this guy's just a bona fide killer. So we'll get him there. I'm going to get him there where he's going to stop shooting them little ones, and we can put him on these bigger deer because he's my guy here. But
Is he from
yeah, I would
Minnesota?
say, what's that?
Is he from Minnesota?
No, he's from Maine.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, Minnesota, Maine, same thing.
Yeah, I'll tell him that I gave him a shout out on your podcast. Have him log into it. So, but I would say that's one of the other challenges too. Like, you get guys in that are just different levels of hunters. To know nothing against them, but just some guys are better shots, and you have to recognize that. We have all of our guys come in and they shoot their bows, right? So we know that maybe putting this guy in a redneck blind on a big giant open food plot where there could be that tempting 70, 80 yard shot. Some guys can make that shot, some guys can't, right? And so recognizing that is probably a challenge. Understanding shot placement sometimes, that's probably one of the bigger ones, right? I absolutely 10 ringed them. Absolutely 10 ringed them, right? And I will say that if there's one thing that I've got out of doing this is I will never track a deer past 100 yards on the night of the shot or the morning of the shot. If I don't find it within 100 yards, we will back out, and I'll come back 4 to 6 hours later. It's just, it's not worth it. We've pushed too many deer. We've had too many just bad experiences with that. And I've just always said if they're dead at 150 yards, they'll be dead at 100 time to hunt the deer,
Yep.
you waited a little bit longer. So I would say just a rule that I have going forward right now is if we don't find it within 100 yards, we'll circle back at a later date.
It's one thing that I do when I shoot a deer. Um, I'll I keep it to myself because I want to give that deer enough time to expire. And as soon as I let one of my buddies know that I put an arrow through a deer, they're like, let's go. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, maybe we should." It's like, I'm gonna give it
Yeah,
some time. I'm gonna keep it to myself, and then we'll go from there.
yeah,
You guys
yeah. I
ever
mean,
do any of
usually
that stuff at camp?
oh, trust me, I have guys that are, we video a lot of our hunters, so that helps too sometimes. I'll even, but yes, we'll have some guys where I'll come to pick them up. I'm like, hey, we're gonna go back. We're gonna drop everything off, grab a bite to eat, and we'll come back. Like, no, we should go right now and get them. And I'm like, no, let's get everybody back in camp, and we'll bring out the TV cameras. That's usually a lot of my excuses, right? Like, hey, we'll bring the
Right.
TV cameras out to videotape the recovery, so maybe make a TV show or something like that. And then I was like, oh yeah, we should do that. So I do kind of have that ace in the hole in my back pocket that I get to use.
Yep.
But otherwise, yeah, everybody wants to run after them, and I get it, right? Like, you were there and the adrenaline's running, and you want to put your hands around that deer and do the pictures and see your trophy. I just think, why risk it?
Yep.
There's just so many things that happen. I mean, we had a youth hunt, and you've probably seen this on some of the social media or whatever. I mean, the zombie deer, as we called it. But in the youth hunt, we had a kid shoot his target deer 3 hours with daylight left, and they watched it run and pile up, fall over. They did all of the B-roll inside of it. So they did the interviews and they did all this kind of stuff. Then they waited for the mom and the dad and uncles and aunts and everybody else that was in camp. They drove up there and they did more filming. And by the time they went to walk over the deer, it was about an hour and a half since the shot. And they looked at this shot and it was right where it needed to be. They walked up on the deer. The deer had 4 legs sticking straight up in the air, laying on its back. The hunter got within 5 feet. The deer rolled over, jumped up on its feet, and took off running. So it's never over until it's over. I'm telling you right
Yeah.
now, some of these things where you see them now, and I just kind of go like, okay, that just happened. So add that to the maybe this could happen again book, right? Or put that away in the file bank. Now that deer just ran into the woods and crashed up, and they found it about 2 hours later because we let it lay. But I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, we had that on our TV show, and it was unbelievable. The look on Brady's face for that was, I mean, he turned around and looked at the camera like, what just happened? Is that a joke? Did somebody play a joke on me? But that deer was on its back, belly up, 2 hours after being shot.
That's
And
the
it
best
rolled.
part about filming. Every time I leave the house to go hunting, it's a lot of work to film. I self-film, and
Mm-hmm.
there are so many things that happen that people would never believe you unless you had it on film. The last year, no, the year before, I filmed 8 timber wolves run about 40 yards from me, and I was able to share that with people. Otherwise, people are like, "Oh, you saw a timber wolf," then they're like, "Let me see that. Let me see that again." Like it's cool
Right?
to have that captured, like you said, the reaction from the hunter, like, "What the heck just happened?" It's cool capturing all that stuff, and that's why I enjoy it. And obviously, you're in the filming side of things as well too, and you get to be there with the hunters as well, and that
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of myself being filmed. I'm on every time I got a camera with me, it just does not work out for various reasons, man. Me and John Schroeder, who is one of the full-time employees, like I said, he's a camera guy also, and we're hell bent to right the ship on this, but we're like 0 for 3 right now.
oh,
And if it can happen, it happens. And from stuff dropping inside of blinds on an absolute monarch of a deer, an 8.5-year-old 8-pointer that went down to just like a branch being in the way in Iowa on an absolute great high and tight, unique, bladed out deer last year. I mean, we have just been snake bit across the board, but we laugh about it. And to me, that it's still a story, right? Like we're gonna finally shoot a deer, hopefully on film, me and him, and uh, and we're gonna celebrate like heck on it. And who knows, maybe I'll film him. So
I know I've had my fair share of mishaps in the stand. There was one time a couple years ago, there's a box stand that my uncle had, and it blew over in the wind, and one of the windows busted out, and they moved the stand, and I went there. It was gonna be my last hunt of the year. It was cold, foot of snow on the ground, and I go in this box stand, and these deer start piling out, and all of a sudden, this doe presents me a shot where this window's busted out, and all the other windows are tinted, right? And I pull back and I let one rip, and all I hear is this bang, and I'm like, what the heck just happened? I thought my bottom cam kicked up and hit the stand. I'm
right,
like, no, that didn't happen. I'm like, okay, did I shoot through the box stand? I'm like, no, that didn't happen. And all of a sudden I looked, and here my uncle's replaced the window that was tinted with clear plexiglass window, and I shot right through the plexiglass window.
did we get the doe or no?
No, my
No.
mission the following shed hunting year was to find that arrow, and I never found the arrow. But I went back and looked at the film. I saw the arrow like just kind of go tumbling off in a different direction, and the doe looked at me, and it was a mess. But I laughed so hard in the stand, I was crying. It was
Yeah.
hilarious.
But see, and that's the great part about it, right? Like that's still a memory and that's a story, and it's because of something that didn't happen the way it was supposed to. And for me, I like those just as much.
Yeah.
Like it's yeah, I love those more than anything. I mean, we had a guy that went to the wrong stand. Like he just took a wrong turn, and then it was getting light out, and he found a stand. He climbed in it, and he ended up shooting a deer. It was just like didn't even. And the hard part is when he calls you and says, "Hey, I shot one," and you walk to that stand, and there's nobody there, and you're like, "He was supposed to be right here, and where is he?" Right? And now there's this phone conversation and text messaging, and then you finally figure out where you're at. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So go ahead, finish up.
oh, I was just gonna say those are the pieces where I didn't even realize that was something that I was gonna get out of doing the outfitting. Is all these extra stories that I got out of it, and those are just neat experiences and the friendships you make. I mean, I've been guiding the same guys now for 4 years, and I've been invited to go just about everywhere in the US and hunt. Like, oh, come down and hunt with me, come down and hunt with me, or come hunt with me. And it's like, yeah, that'd be great, guys. But like, I can't be everywhere at once. And, I know you live there and it's easy, but me trying to get a moose tag is in Maine is not as easy as it is for you. So, yeah. And I want to hunt with my girls. So,
Yep. No, that's yeah, I hear you, and I'm really transitioning that direction as well. I was thinking about this today. So I teach for my normal job, and then I mow lawns in the summer, and I got about 14 accounts that I do. So I have a lot of time to listen to podcasts and a lot of time to be thinking. And you know, between people who hunt for a living and you as guides, nobody else has more experience in the woods. It's people like you, guides, and then people who hunt for a living, and probably they're camera guys. They're out there as well. But you talk about strategically setting up these properties that you guide on. Like, can you give us an example of a strategic placement of maybe a food plot? Food plot season's in full swing right now. The fall planting's coming up here shortly. Just maybe kind of give us an outlay, paint the picture of a perfect setup, a strategic setup that you guys might be planning right now for, let's say, one of those bigger bucks that you guys got in trail cam.
yeah, I mean, I would say that most of our designs are probably done and planted right now. Um, I mean, we've got a few maybe last minute stuff going in, but our corn is in, our beans are in. But for us, it's almost like a 2 or 3 stage process that we kind of think about when we set up these farms. I mean, and everything is done with access in mind, right? So you've always got some sort of a destination food source of any sort, right? It doesn't matter if it's with food plots or with land management, but we all know that field that when you drive to the cabin or go to grandma's or aunt and uncle's house, there's always a field that's full of deer when you drive by it at dusk, right? That's the destination food plot. That's a tough thing to hunt when it's 160 acres of just field. You know what I mean? Like that's hard to get on, especially with a bow. So for us, it's trying to determine where that bedding area is off of that, and then trying to put that small little kill plot in between there, right? And then putting something in there that can make them want to stop there. Need it be a clover plot or a late season brassicas or chicory or anything like that's just different that they're going to want to swing in there, right? A watering hole. I think any water source is probably the most overlooked land management piece that a lot of people don't do. And it can be anything from the blue kiddie pool from Walmart or Fleet Farm, or the stock tank that you can find, the black one from Fleet Farm, or whatever it is. But if you can get that in a little bit of a low area where the water can, every time it rains, it fills it up a little bit, and you'd be amazed on how much more that will bring you deer into bow range than a food plot would, or an apple tree, or a mineral station, or anything like that. Water, to me, we've had farms with rivers that are running through them where we've put in watering holes, and we've actually watched deer walk through a running water river to go to a watering hole to drink. Like they walk through a river to go drink out of a watering hole. And we've got theories behind it. I mean, we have no proof behind it. I believe that when they stand in the water and they drink on a river, they can't hear as well. And the scent is weird because of the flowing water. So you've got, scent that wafts with it, where if they walk up to a watering hole, it's quieter. They can smell everything. They can hear everything, see better, whatever else. So to me, and then give something that's a social, everything comes to a rubbing post or a scrape post or something like that. Does go to them, young bucks go to them, adolescent bucks go to them, mature bucks go to them. They'll all swing by them. And sometimes they just walk by them, but to me, it's something in the field that they just want to walk up to. And it's a access point, or they walk out of the woods, they walk to that first. They go to the water hole first, then it's the rubbing post. And then they meander out into the field a little bit more. So, and then utilizing those food plot designs, plant some corn and then mow it down and put in some brassicas in August. They will walk the brassicas instead of trying to walk through the corn. We do it all the time. And to me, it's simple. Or just mow it. I've even seen, I use this trick where I hunt on my own stuff here, where inside corner of a field where it's all grass, and because the farmer just doesn't want to get out of his tractor, it's a really big inside corner and it's all tall grass. I will legitimately just weed whip a path that I want them to walk from the field into the woods on and hunt off of that. And they will walk that weed whip path versus other trails that they've had. I mean, you can change them that easy. Push down a fence entrance, right? Make a hole in the fence bigger. They will go through it. They will go around it. There's some little tricks out there that cost $0 all the way up to, I mean, we've torn out where 3 ridge tops come together and put in a 5-acre food plot on the top of a ridge, and it's dynamite. We've shot some great deer off of it, but we still have water on it. We still have rubbing posts on it. We have different food types on it, late season, early season, but it works. I mean, you just give them a reason to go there and they will go there. I promise you that.
It's kind of like dogs drinking out of a toilet.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? What are you doing drinking out of this? You have a dog dish over here with water. and you
Yeah,
come in here and you want to drink out of the toilet that I was just sitting on 5 minutes ago. Like, what are we
right.
doing here?
That's because you flushed it and you put fresh water in it,
Yeah, it's
and it's
crazy, but
cold,
like,
right?
yeah, and that's I don't know, the thought that I always had was, is it the temperature difference between a creek versus a pond or a little, stagnant water spot? I don't know, but
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I mean, and I don't know that anybody will ever know for sure 100%. I mean, I think we all have our thoughts behind it because we watch it, and that's the cool part about being in the woods. And but yeah, I mean, we don't have a single watering hole, I don't think, in any of our farms that we don't have a camera on because it is such a great magnet that you can get your inventory that much faster and easier.
yeah, is it something to do with leaving their scent behind there in that spot? Is it a communication thing? I don't know.
It, it could be. I mean, I don't know. I mean, but it's also one of the reasons why, EHD sometimes hits so hard is because it's because of the water, right? They come to the water. And once that happens, I mean, it's fast because they're coming to those pieces of water. That's
Did you guys
stagnant water. And,
did you guys have to deal with much EHD down in that neck of the woods?
we haven't had any real confirmed cases of it. You always hear, you go to the bar, the restaurant, or the local, greasy spoon, everybody's like, oh yeah, it's in here thick, it's in here thick. And we're like, I don't know, man. Like, we've got 25 farms and 3,000 acres, and it's not like we got a bunch of dead deer hanging around. I mean, we just did a shed hunt where I think we picked up, or I don't know, maybe found 5 or 6 deadheads, of bucks. So to me, if we had EHD, I think we would have found way more than that. I just think some of those could be anything from neighbors who didn't find something, or just old run down or injured from the rut or anything like that. So I think if you only can find 6 deadheads, and we had, I don't know, 225 sheds that were collected. So I mean, we went through the farms pretty thoroughly in a day's time. I mean, I don't know, we had 100 people there, I would suppose, and we went after those farms big. And so I don't know that we've had the EHD down in Buffalo County like they've had it in Illinois and Missouri and out west. And I just don't know that we've had it here, knock on wood.
Yeah, and did they didn't have to do any sharpshooting for CWD in that neck of the woods, did they? I'd assume not.
No, it's interesting. There's such a, oh man, I don't know. Like, all of the landowners and everybody down in Buffalo County there and around there, the neighboring counties, like, I don't know that they would even allow it. Like, it would be, they could come down and say that it's their tenfold and give out the tags, and I don't know that the landowners would do it. There's so many guys down there that are doing land management and trying to grow bigger bucks and save the younger ones, that I don't know that they could even do anything with it down there like they do in southeast Minnesota. But it'll be interesting. I think it's years away before it could get pressing, but right now I think the deer management is too strong down there that they can get away with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I don't know, the strategy behind taking all those deer out with CWD just blew my mind. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. What are we doing here? And one
Well,
analogy
yeah,
that,
I mean, I just always go back to, they found it in the 70s in Montana, and Montana didn't do nothing about it. And Montana's a great state to go deer hunting in. So I don't know what you're trying to change or what you think you're trying to avoid, but I think the history and the time of Montana would tell you that EHD is a bigger thing to worry about than CWD. That's for sure.
yeah, 100%. 100%. And I didn't realize that because the only thing that I'm really exposed to up here and what I hear in Minnesota is CWD, CWD. Like,
Oh, I know.
EHD has never really impacted me, but then listen to some of these podcast guys talking about, like, the deer herd is dying right now, where CWD,
Oh, yeah.
it takes a while, and yeah, EHD does need to be addressed and whatnot, and just I don't know. I'm not even gonna go down that rabbit hole because I'll just get
Yeah,
ticked
right.
off.
It's a whole different podcast. I mean, we can rip out the CWD versus EHD podcast anytime you
Yeah,
want. I mean, I'm sure we could get famous on that deal.
Oh, big time. So question for you going back to now. Let's get back on track here. Going
Yeah.
back to say somebody harvests the buck, right?
Yep.
Now in the real world, like up here where I hunt, and you know, let's say public land, right? Let's say
Yep.
public land. When somebody shoots a buck in a spot, immediately there's a herd of people that flock there because a big buck
Hmm.
was shot there. I need to hunt there. How
Hmm.
long do you guys wait before you put another person in that stand? But there was a big buck shot there, so you need to go hunt there, right? Like, how does that work for you guys? When do you decide to put the next person in that spot?
When the cameras tell us, or we know that there's still big deer on that farm. I mean, we honestly hunt the farms that have the deer that are showing themselves that we can kill them. I mean, that's the best way I can put it. We've hunted stands 2 nights in a row and killed deer 2 nights in a row, same stand. And but a lot of that comes from the fact of doing it right, right? Like you go in and hunt it with the right wind. When you do shoot something, it's almost like a Navy SEAL extraction mission, right? Like we will rip in there with the quad or the side by side, find it, load it in, pull out of there, and then we'll go down and we'll take pictures somewhere else or do something like that. We do all of our cleaning and dressing back at the main lodge. We've got a spot where we do that. So I mean, we will just rip right in there, especially if we know like, oh, it died right in the field. We've seen it fall down. I mean, we will. It is like a Navy SEAL extraction team where we just rip in there, grab it, and we'll come into the field or whatever like that and blow out 20, 30 deer. But we grab that deer, we throw it in the back, and we zip out of there. And yeah, we'll maybe go back there 2 o'clock the next day and sneak a guy in there and put him in a stand. And lo and behold, what did they really witness, right? Especially if it's archery, right? You shoot it, maybe the deer run out of the field, maybe they don't. You wait till pitch dark. You drive a quad in there. You drive the side by side in there. They've seen the side by side 1,000 times. It goes through the field. You pick something up and you sneak out. It gets a little harder if you're hunting timber, right? Now you got to trounce through there, and there's flashlights and a bunch of human scent. We might let it settle down a little bit more, but I can tell you this much: if we let it settle down and 2 days later the camera pops off and our deer's walking a ridge or something like that, we've got we won't shy away from trying to slip a guy in there. But a lot of that is because we have the access to do it and we have the design to do it. We don't have to run through where he's at or hey, let's run through the bedding area to get to it, right? No, we've got a way that we come in the backside on it, or we've designed the farm so that we can get to it. So it goes for a lot of the front planning, right? I mean, I always think about like, what are we going to do if we look at a lot of stands that way. We got stands where we enter them in one way and exit them out a separate way at night. And we'll show hunters that, like, hey, I'm going to drop you off here at the road. You're going to follow the power line down till you hit the creek, walk the creek down, pop up, get in the stand. When you're at the end of the night, you'll go back down the creek, walk the opposite way out, and I'll meet you at this little access road in the pine trees. I mean, it's just you got to think about those things, and that's the preparation that goes in June, July, August, getting ready for the season. I personally only hunt the first 2 weekends of the year, and then after that, I wait till the rut.
So let me ask you this. There's a lot of benefits you doing what you do, guiding, get to experience those, special moments with those people, building relationships, networking, all that good stuff. But what about you personally? Have you taken from guiding all these years and implemented into your style of hunting? Maybe some lessons learned, strategies that you've used now that maybe you didn't know previously, somewhere along those lines.
I would think probably the number one thing that I have validated that I always did before, but never really knew, like, is this the right thing to be doing, is the pressure content. there's nothing that makes me happier of when I drive by and check on my hunting land and I see all the neighbors still hunting. Like I'm like, yeah, keep on doing it, guys. Like keep running in there, keep running to that stand. Like love it. Love seeing those trucks parked on all my neighboring properties because all they're doing is just putting more pressure on their stuff and pushing them into my stuff. And to me, I think if I could tell, and I get it, I love to be in a stand. And for that purpose, I have some stands, I'm not going to lie, that I set up that are in super low pressure areas that are easy for me to get in and out of that aren't going to ruin anything so that I can just go jump up in a stand and enjoy a sunset or see those does or smaller bucks do what they're going to do. So you just kind of get used to being in the tree and get acclimated in those things. For sure, I have those stands. And when I go to those stands, I'm probably less than a 5% chance of going and getting my target buck, which by the way, I've been chasing for 3 years now. So maybe it goes to show you I'm not as good as you might think I am, but I've had some opportunities. I've made some passes. So, but that's a story when I finally get them. We'll have that podcast, and I'll share that story. I just kind of glanced over at a picture that I have. So, but
Well, not only will the story grow, but the buck will grow as well, right?
well, I'm hoping so. He kind of went backwards last year, so I'm going to see what happens this year. So, but he was injured at the fall before that. So, but yeah, I mean, I would think that would probably be my number one piece that I would tell anybody is if you cut your time in the woods in half, you'd probably double your success.
I've heard a lot of stories like that. A lot of guys, even Mike over at Domain, he talks about
Oh yeah,
everybody says when he goes out, he kills, but he goes in at the right time and just so happens there it is.
yeah. That Mr. Lindahl there, he's kind of a funny cat, ain't he?
Just a little bit. He has to be pretty funny if he works with us, I'll tell you that much.
That's there's no doubt about that. Yeah, I love the guys over there at Domain. That's all we use for our seed and stuff. So,
Yeah, they're
um,
good dudes. They're good
yeah,
dudes. They've been with us since the start, and can't thank them enough. And also thank you, Mike, for joining me on this podcast. Maybe I don't know. Do you have anything else that you want to share? You got to make sure you tell everyone where you can, they can find more information about you guys. But any tidbit that you want to hit on before we go down that road?
he, the one piece that I would push to anybody is the easier you can make it on yourself to not be judge or not judge your hunt by harvesting an animal and on just enjoying it and enjoying it with people. I think you'll find that you'll it'll just be a better experience across the board. I don't know how to say it. I know what I'm trying to get across, but I can't quite figure out how to articulate that out perfectly at this moment. But enjoy the experience, I guess, is what I'm after right now. And I think I wish I would have learned that lesson probably 15 years ago to enjoy the experience more than make it so much about making the kill. And I once I figured that out, I've just had such a blast being in the outdoors, and it's opened up tons of opportunities for me. That leads into the homegrown outfitters. You can follow that on all the social media platforms, find it there. And the TV show is Love the Grind TV. That just actually just started today with our first episode. Jeff shoots an absolute giant elk with an amazing shot. I mean, I would tune in and see it because it's an amazing shot. So it's a good deal. But the show will also show you a ton of the things we do from the land management side and the tricks of the trade. And if you find me on any of the social media and you got questions, I try to get and answer all of them. I really do. You may not like the answer I give you, but I try to give that answer out and help anybody try to achieve what they're going to achieve. I mean, that's I've been super blessed to be given that opportunity by guys like Domain and the other places and all of our sponsors. So, but I also don't stand up for a sponsor unless I believe in it. So I'll tell you that also. So
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're thinking about possibly doing an outfitter for a hunt, I highly recommend these guys here because I follow them on the social media platforms and I watch all their videos and all that good stuff. And if I was gonna pick a camp to go to hang out with a bunch of cool people, this would be the one to go to. And like you said, just the drone footage of the lodge coming in, at the beginning of the shows and stuff is just like wow. Just like you said, 5-star all the way around, and the people I'm sure are the same. And yeah, if you're looking for an experience, check out Homegrown Outfitters. And if you want to watch some videos, love the grind. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's one of those things where I usually set my alarm earlier than when I actually need to get up, and I usually make a cup of coffee and I go to YouTube and I put on
Oh yeah,
Love the Grind or whatever. I'm
yeah,
watching
yeah.
all these hunting shows to pick up on some little things. But yeah, it's fun to watch, and the editing on it too, and the production on that end too, Mike. You guys do a phenomenal job.
Well, that goes out to Brian Lemke at Almani Productions. I don't know if you heard of them or know of them, but Brian absolutely and his team down there, they work some of the greatest magic ever. So just about anything. I mean, if they can make this look better on TV, I don't know how they do it, but they achieve it somehow, some way. So, but yeah, those guys are magic. It's amazing.
Well, cool, Mike. Like I said, I appreciate it, and we got to give thanks to Gary too for hooking us up because this was a pretty fun
Yeah.
podcast, and I learned a bunch here. And like I said, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. And till next time, thanks for listening, you guys, and have a great day. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Happy hunting.